Hi everyone, welcome back to Around the Business World with Jia. Today I'm here with another incredible guest, Ms. Nandini Ketan, a dispute resolution lawyer with experience in across various practice areas and jurisdictions. She has appeared in almost every level of the Indian judicial system and is also an avid reader and is interested in adult coloring, something I am personally interested in knowing more about. So without further ado, let's begin with the interview. So you let me know once you're ready and we can start the interview. All right, great. So before we dive into the main questions about your professional life, I'll ask a bit about your personal life, which is, can you describe your childhood in a few words?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me today, Gia. I'm looking forward to our chat. Um, I think it was a very typical middle class joint family upbringing with lots of cousins and around to play with and grow up with. We had an ambassador car, and 7, 8 of us would pile up in it and go to school or come back from it. Um, I have a younger sister, and I'm also equally close to my Masi's son. So, we grew up with a lot of, love and care. I went to a all girls school, which was very strong on academics at that point. I mean, it still is, but at that point, the focus was more academics. I think today kids have a lot more extracurriculars, which we didn't have then. And my grandparents looked after me till I was practically 10 or 11 years old. So I was very close to both of them growing up.
That's really sweet. If you could give your younger self any advice today, what advice would you give?
Well, I think, when we are in school, we tend to, at least I did not try very hard in the subjects that I didn't like. I used to hate maths and science. I was terrible at them. And, there was ultimately, there was a mind block. And I think maths and science are something that you need all through your life in ways which you don't even realize. So I would say keep an open mind to it and try a little harder to kind of, get it or enjoy it.
All right. Yeah, I completely agree with the maths and science part though. My next question is, can you describe yourself in three words?
I think you'd get a better answer if you asked my family, especially my sister. I think fair minded, caring, and grateful. But these are aspirational to a large extent, also.
Yeah, and I think they're true from whatever conversations I've had. My next is, can you? I've heard a lot about your coloring, and I think the audience can also see it, and it's really beautiful. So, can you tell us a bit about how you got into adult coloring and what made you carry it forward for 6 years?
So, in school, I was a complete failure at anything art and music related. I have no talent for either one of them. And as I grew older, art kind of went away from my life. Music still stayed because I used to dance, but I can't sing and definitely couldn't draw or color. And I think even in school, we didn't explore different mediums and those things. So in about 2014, I was trying meditation, and I couldn't really do it well. The major focus issues, and someone told me, why don't you try these adult coloring books? And they weren't really available in India that time as freely. So in one of my trips, I picked up a adult coloring book. And basically, what it means by adult coloring book is that the pictures are really finely drawn with smaller spaces to color in, fill in. So I kind of took to that. It was not as difficult as what we had art in school, I think. And I really enjoyed it, and it stayed with me for the last 6, 7 years. It's really fun to have something which helps you focus, and I usually do it at night. So it's a stress buster at the end of a busy day.
It is, and and you draw and you color extremely well also. So
It's more fun than anything else.
it is a lot of fun. What's something new you've learned in the past 1 year during lockdown?
So the study of Gita is something that I took up in the last one year, and it's with the Vedanta Academy based out of Pune. And so we have an online class that happens, and there's like a whole bunch of us who log in as a private class, and it's very interactive. So it's not where you're just listening to a lecture and you may not kind of follow or not feel interested in. So it's very interactive, and it's helped me tremendously in these times of very difficult times. The one thing that the class says that you should study the Gita or whatever interests you in those lines from an earlier age rather than later. So I would recommend everyone to try the hand at it.
I shall also. My next question is, I've heard that you're extremely into women empowerment and equality. So, what women personalities or leaders do you look up to, and why?
Various people, men and women both, have kind of been inspirational at different points of my life. But the one person that's resolutely stayed firm is my aunt Ananya, who lives in Bombay. I lived with her for 10 years that I stayed there. She is a woman of quiet strength, a lot of depth. So, she's been through a lot of adversity, which she's handled with so much grace and dignity and calm that, it's aspirational. And whenever we are in trouble, I think she's the first one to sort of, be there. And our first thought always is to what would Masi do in such times, and, try and emulate that to some extent. So I would say my Masi.
That's really sweet. My next question is sort of related to women empowerment, which is, can you talk about what would you like to see as the future of women empowerment in, say, the next 10 to 20 years?
With women empowerment, I think the most basic thing is that women should have choices to make. A lot of times they're not even aware they have a choice. And that starts with knowing your rights. That starts with being literate. So I think literacy is the most important step towards women empowerment. So many times we have women coming in from the rural areas, underprivileged backgrounds. They don't even know if they have a bank account whose name their little hut or house is in, whether they are able to sign a contract, nothing. So these are absolutely alien things to them. So I think literacy is the first step to any form of empowerment. In cities and urban areas, I would say the hidden biases, if they are dealt with, would also go a long way towards women empowerment.
All right. So now that we've spoken a lot about women empowerment and what you'd like to see as the future of it, especially giving women a choice and literacy, my next question is, what motivates you as an individual?
So there's a saying, or there's an expression in our scriptures called Tattvam Asi, which is really, translated means that thou art. It's premised on identification with the other. And it manifests in all forms of your life, whether it's personal relationships, with your family, your loved ones, at work, any way you can look at it. And it's really, for me, to be able to see how far and how well I can live that expression. I think that's truly a motivating factor for me every single day.
All right. And my next question is actually of a different tangent, and it's bringing in your interest in reading. So I've heard you have around 200 signed books, from Jeffrey Archer to Dalai Lama. Can you tell us a little bit about your favorite books and your reading endeavors?
So it's true, I do have somewhere between 150 to 200 signed books, which have been collected over maybe a decade or more. I didn't even realize I was collecting it till it became a collection. So I think some of the very special books, well, they're all special, but some of the ones which come to mind right now are the one you mentioned by Dalai Lama. One of my grandmothers was a very learned woman, and she put together an anthology of 1,000 years of Hindi poetry. That's a book we grew up with, and reciting poetry to each other. Uncles would recite poetry from it, and she gifted our family a copy signed to us. So that's a very special book as well. Then I've picked up some books on my travels. So when I went to Israel, there are two authors there, Ronan Bergman and Ayelet the Sabri, who signed my books. So those are also very special. But I mean, each one has their own story and special in their own way. As for reading endeavors, so reading is really, I mean, it's sort of a cliche to say this perhaps, but it's like meditation to me. I've been reading since I was a child. I would not play with dolls, and I would read books. And so now I kind of, write reviews sometimes, not for publication formally, but, for friends and family, put it up on my social media. And the idea behind that is to, get people interested in reading more. So it's always a thrill, even if one person picks up a book because you've written a review. Literature Fest is something that I really enjoy. In 2013, I went to the Jaipur Literature Festival, and that was such a fantastic experience. So when I came back, I realized that there was an equally fantastic literature festival in Calcutta. Couple of them. One of them is Tata Lit Fest. It's called Kalam. So I started volunteering there every year after that, and I take leave from work to do this. So it's great fun, and that's actually where I've picked up a lot of my autographs copies.
Oh, definitely. I'm pretty sure a lot of authors will be attending that as well. So during the lockdown, which book are you currently reading?
So I read a lot during the lockdown, got a lot of time to do so. I think two of the books that stand out for me. One is a book called Those Days. It's a translation of a Bengali book called Shei Shomoy. It's by Sunil Gangopadhyay. He won the Sahitya Kala Academy for the book in 1984-85. It's such a beautiful account of early Bengal Renaissance period, maybe around 1830s to 1870. I have never been more grateful for my education, especially as a woman, as I was while reading the book. And it's such a fantastic eye opener. Even living, though I've kind of grown up in Bengal and I live here now, I didn't know so much. So, and even though it's a translation, because the author himself worked and collaborated on the translation, it's a very, very, well done book, and I would recommend it to a lot of people. Another book was a part of a recommendation from my book club, Exhalations by Ted Chiang. Now, I generally hate science fiction books, don't really like to read them. But this was something that I, kind of said, okay, let me try. And it's short stories. And it's absolutely fantastic. It wasn't dystopian. It wasn't difficult to read. A lot of the stories make you think, because some of them talk about free will. One of them was about artificial intelligence and how, they will be in 20 years. So it's a book that I would again recommend reading. If I can read a science fiction book, then anybody can.
All right, science fiction does seem like a lot of fun. In fact, I might give these books a shot. My next my next question is, you write a lot of book reviews. Why do you think it's important to read?
So, it's the greatest gift you'll ever give yourself. It's not only fun, and it's entertaining, and it keeps you occupied for hours. You never have to get bored while waiting somewhere if you have a book in your hand. I carry a book in my bag at any given point of time. But it's also important for a couple of reasons. One of them being it's a huge empathy. It builds empathy in people. When you read a book, especially fiction, you step into the shoes of the character that you're reading about, and you kind of go through their journey and their trials and tribulations, which makes it easier, I would say, to understand that problem even in the real world. So that's one big reason. The other is that when you read books, you have to imagine a lot, like the characters, how they look, how they sound, the settings, the environment. And that's directly, the imagination is directly linked to your cognitive abilities. There are studies that show that, you using your imagination helps you, exercise your cognitive abilities, which in turn help you with better decision making, creative solutions. So for all these reasons, it's important to read. It's really truly the best gift you can give yourself.
All right. Yeah, it definitely is important. I personally also love reading and enjoy it a lot. Now, the next couple of questions from now are going to be related to your professional life. The first question is, you've been awarded Hottest Business Leaders 40 Under 40 by Economics Times. How does it feel to be one of the brightest professionals of the country?
Firstly, any recognition is first and foremost always a recognition of all the people who've kind of helped you, get wherever you are in whatever stage of life. And I'm extremely grateful for all the help and mentorship that I've received. And it's really, I think, sort of a reminder and a mandate to just keep working harder.
All right, that's nice. You're in a family full of lawyers. How does it feel to be the first woman to practice law in the family?
So it is true that it's a family full of lawyers, extended family, my own family. Every morning in the house, my grandfather, father, uncle would all wear their black coats and leave in the morning for court. And it was like a wondrous place for me. What is this place that they're all going to? And Baba, grandfather, would always say that, like, when you become older you can come with me, and being his pet I would always kind of want to follow him around. So that's where it really started from, I think. In school at a very early age, we were once asked to draw what you wanted to be when you become older. And I remember drawing a black robe or a gown, and the teacher asked, is this a witch's cloak? And I was like, no, this is a lawyer's gown. So really the thought from a very early age was very like in one point agenda to become a lawyer. I didn't give it really any other thought also, which I think is very important for people to consider when they are considering what they want to do. But yes, that's how it started. And as for being the first woman, I'm actually not very happy about that. I wish there were more before me. It's been a long time coming, but I'm sure there'll be more after me. And there are already a couple of them who are studying, I think. I know.
All right, that's great that there are more after you as well. Most of the action of lawyers happen in Mumbai or Delhi. Do you miss living in either of the cities?
So I spent 10 years in Bombay, and I think the kind of cases that I did there, Bombay High Court especially, built a base that I'm really sort of thankful for. And, it's always going to be very special to me. And of course, Bombay has my friends who I made while, starting work. So that's another huge factor. Delhi has the Supreme Court and a lot of the appellate tribunal. So it's also a fantastic body of work that you see there. Having said that, I think Calcutta has its own charm, and I miss Bombay and Delhi, but I'm happy in Calcutta as well.
All right. And what's been your biggest learning, you'd say, as a litigation lawyer?
Teamwork. It's the most collaborative exercise you will ever sort of experience. I've always said this, that you're as strong as your weakest link. If your brief is not photocopied properly, or the judge doesn't have the correct copy, or your arguing counsel, or you don't have the correct copy, you're going to have a tough day in court. If while opening the notice that your clients received, they cut off the received sign, you'll stamp, you'll have a problem. So every part of litigation is important. There are a lot of moving parts in that sense. So you need to make sure that each and everything is taken care of, and that can only happen with teamwork. So I think that's the biggest takeaway.
So, bringing forward your learning as a litigation lawyer, what would you advise aspiring law students?
It would be a kind of takeaway of the teamwork concept only, I would say. No job is big or small. If you're given a particular responsibility, take ownership of it, because it's in its own way will be very important for the final outcome. do not consider something small or big. That's the biggest thing. Whether it's being asked to sit in court and watch a matter, because that itself will give your teammates an idea of what's happening in court and help them take decisions, or it's just to photocopy your brief, which is very important for everybody, or it's drafting. Every single thing is important, so take ownership of it and be responsible.
I hope the students listening out there take this advice. So, would it be possible to tell the audience about the harsh reality of being a lawyer?
One of the challenges that I think most of us face as litigator lawyers definitely is the unpredictability of the profession. And there is so much delay in the judicial system that there is no predictability of when your matters will get done or get heard. You could be all prepared with your conferences, with your research, go into court, and the matter will not reach hearing, or there'll be an adjournment. So it's disorienting to start with. You will get a lot of curses from your friends and families for canceling plans last minute. But you figure out and you kind of learn to live with it after a point. So I think the unpredictability part of it is definitely something that's tough. It's tough for the lawyers themselves and for the people around them. But having said that, with a lot of the problems that like any other profession that faces, I think it's still a fantastic place to be in. There's a lot of scope to kind of help people, give back, and most importantly, learn something new every day. As a litigator lawyer, one day we could be working on intellectual property, the next day environmental law, and the third day a matrimonial dispute. So the learnings are so varied and so much that it's fantastic. Any shortcomings of the profession are offset by how much it gives back.
That's great. I hope that inspires a lot more people to take up law in the future coming years. All right, that was it for my interview. I hope you enjoyed being a part of it. I definitely enjoyed interviewing you. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, Ria, so much for having this chat. And I did really enjoy myself and wish you all the best for all your future endeavors.
All right, thank you. I hope you enjoyed watching.